Hey, everyone, what's going on? Lauren Sisler here with AL.com. We are cruising into week 4 of the SEC college football season. It's Auburn, it's South Carolina, and it's go time.
Let's go now. Let's go now. Can't stop us. Let's go now.
And we got our buddy Cole Cubelic hanging out. Of course, you can see Cole on the sidelines on ESPN SEC Network, as well as WJOX in the afternoons, or I guess the mornings, 10 to 2. It's kind of a split bag there. Cole, first and foremost, Auburn, we kind of saw how things shook out against Arkansas. They get out with the win 30-28. But one big concern that I have, and I'm just curious to get your point of view on this, the injuries. It seems like, a couple years ago, Auburn was marred by the injury bug, but it was later in the season. And right now, Auburn is dealing with a lot of injuries. Just your thoughts on the injuries and who are some guys that are key pieces that they need to get healthy and get back in that lineup.
It really is affecting this team, and I think you've got some impact players that are dealing with some nagging injuries, some more serious than others. Seth Williams is a guy that comes to mind. I don't think he's been 100% for the last few weeks, and I think that's affected this offense. You saw Broderius Ham miss a start at right tackle. He's a guy that's dinged up, still played in the game, but maybe they didn't figure healthy enough or didn't practice enough to be the starter. Austin Troxell's been in and out of the lineup. Don't know how healthy he is. And obviously, Sean Shivers is somebody who you anticipated was going to have a pretty big role. I think you look defensively, Quan Newkirk's a guy that they need up front. Big Cat Bryant hasn't been as effective as you wanted him to be and hadn't given you the reps that you needed from him the entire season. KJ Britt's out of the lineup. You're missing guys in the secondary. So as for why, I'll be honest, I expected this for almost every team, just based on no spring football, how the fall practice was going to go, the fact that they didn't train in-house with their strength coaches for the majority of the offseason. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of this on more teams, but Auburn kind of got hit by it early. I think a little bit of COVID breakout in the preseason probably hurt them because it took reps away from a lot of the guys that were going to be starters and be relied upon. It's one of my biggest concerns for this team.
All right, so we'll start on the defensive side of the football for Auburn versus South Carolina offense. Mike Bobo, look, he's injected some new life into this Gamecocks offense, I think, especially in the run game. I think that's been an area that they've improved. Right now, they rank 6th in the SEC, rushing 165 yards. Auburn, they're trying to establish the run game on the other side, and that's something we'll get into when we get on the offensive side of the football. But I'll tell you what, Kevin Harris, he has been a dynamic threat for them in the run game. How does this Auburn defense match up against them? I think that we saw some hope. We saw some good things from them on Saturday in a very sloppy, messy game on the Plains, but there's still a lot of things they need to clean up. When you have a team like Auburn that was ahead, they gave up that lead. Obviously, some missed assignments, missed tackles, weren't able to contain Felipe Franks in that second half like they had hoped to. Your thoughts overall on how they match up with this South Carolina offense?
I think up front, not great. I think top to bottom, pretty good, because I think Auburn probably is still a little bit more athletic and has the speed to be problematic for this South Carolina defense. The issue for Auburn is Mike Bobo all of a sudden has this team as a team that's using the tight end, that's a downhill run team, that's playing a more physical brand of football. So Darius Hutcherson's playing great game at guard, great football at guard. You got a good tight end that comes in, and I think all the backs have been running hard for the South Carolina team this year. So that's something that we knew when Bobo was hired. There was going to be an emphasis on it, and it wasn't going to be something that they went away from as often as they had the past few seasons. So the big concern for me, and the big issue that I think no matter who Auburn's playing, when you talk about matching up, unless they were, say, playing Kentucky, is the ability to generate a pass rush with 4. And there hasn't been a ton of that. They need more disruption. They need more push. They need more of a pass rush from the front 4 on a consistent basis, and they just haven't gotten it. So for me, that is where I think Auburn becomes a little bit outmatched by any decent offensive line that they play. But South Carolina does have one. So it's going to be up to those 4 to be able to generate some pass rush, get to Colin Hill, force the ball out early, and be able to take away some of that South Carolina running game as well.
And you talk about consistency on the Auburn offensive side of the football. Bo Nix is a guy that has shown some good things this year, but also we've seen him struggle on the road. Obviously, he struggled against Georgia, one of the best defenses in the country last year. There was a little bit of that up and down when he was on the road. And I think we'll see much of that as well when they travel to South Carolina. They were able to move the ball more effectively on the ground, especially in the first half. But it was interesting at halftime when I talked to Gus, he said, look, we're moving the ball effectively. I like what our running backs are doing. We're getting back to our Auburn identity. And then things stalled out in the second half. And he even pointed to the fact that with the weather calming down in the second half, that they thought they could have more success. And unfortunately, it just wasn't there. So overall, how they match up against the South Carolina defense, and even more specifically in the secondary, I think the South Carolina secondary is going to be challenged. But what do you see in this matchup and the success that maybe Auburn can have against South Carolina defense?
Well, I think you look at the structure of the secondary, and there will probably be more available underneath. It's kind of the way that Will and T-Rob play it. And I think you have a better chance to make a living there. And with some of what Auburn's done this year, you've seen some emphasis on that. The matchup problems come, I think it's a much better defensive line than a lot of people give them credit for. Keir Thomas and Kingsley Eningbari are just – they've got better players on that defensive line than a lot of people that follow this league really would like to recognize. And then they have big matchup problems for you in the secondary. Now, they don't have a guy who can match up with an Anthony Schwartz because he's faster than pretty much every guy that plays defense in this league. But I think when you look at a Seth Williams, if he's healthier, if he's a guy that can be utilized more than he was last week, I mean, you've got Israel Mukuamu at safety, who's 6'4", 210, and J.C. Horn at corner, who's a big, long, physical corner. So all of a sudden, they have individuals that match up with Seth Williams very well. That can be problematic. The good news if you're an Auburn fan is last week the ball was fed to Anthony Schwartz. And you have to be excited about that because we've been waiting on it for a long time. And I think Tank Bigsby's your guy. You found your feature tailback. And there's no more, hey, we're going to try Shivers when he comes back, or maybe DJ Williams. No, Tank Bigsby is your guy. I have to think back multiple years to find a college football player that plays as hard as Tank Bigsby does from snap to whistle. The young man just goes 100 miles an hour nonstop, more so than maybe anybody I've seen in the last 5 or 6 years. And so I think now you can inject that energy into your team. He's going to make life a little bit easier, and I think he's your guy at tailback. So you're finding some things offensively. Now can you consistently build on that and maybe add some things when a Shivers comes back, allow Pegues to continue to be a little bit more in the offense, get different roles and make things happen. So those are some of the positives that I saw from Auburn's offense last week.
Yeah, huge key there. I think it's going to be pumping energy, sustaining drives, 4 quarters of the game. That's going to be a key against the South Carolina team. Prediction, ready, go.
I think this will be a very similar to the Arkansas game, just a slugfest, a physical game, and I think it's going to be a game that comes down to the wire. I think playmakers on offense ultimately are the difference for Auburn. And I'm going to say 21-17. Auburn finds a way to win this football game.
All right, I got Auburn winning as well. I got Auburn winning 27-23. I think it's going to be interesting. Consistency. They got to perform in all phases of the game, as I said, get things into that more complete rhythm, offense, defense, special teams. We'll see how things shake out. Cole, we appreciate you. Of course, we check you on the sidelines. Kentucky at Tennessee, 11 a.m., SEC Network. 11 a.m. Central Time, and have a good one.
It's guaranteed that I die legend. Yeah, son God, homie, I'm reverend. Preach, just protecting my investment. Ask about me, integrity's not a question.